So I'm really honored that everyone's here. This is really fun for me to get to share some knowledge and answer questions and hopefully provide some value while I geek out and get into this stuff that I'm into every day. So we'll jump right in, and we'll probably move. My plan is to kind of move through this pretty quickly and then be able to help with any specific questions that anybody has, kind of have it be like a working session so that you guys get the most value out of this. First thing we're going to do is just kind of take a look at why we're here, why Google AdWords, what Google AdWords is and why it's important, why it's relevant. We'll look at some data around that, and then I kind of want to start by looking at all the different aspects of Google AdWords, because Google AdWords is actually an ad product that encompasses several different buckets of being able to place ads in different places. So last time, there's probably about 90% of the room, this is your third class, you've kind of moved through from the content creation to the ads deployment in social so from like content creation to boosting posts to ads deployment in social and now to Google AdWords. And so we're kind of hitting all the different layers. And then in the final class on December 7th, we'll talk about Google Analytics. And we'll tee that up in this class, Google Analytics preview. So we'll go Google AdWords Express, Google AdWords as an ad product, and all the different things that you can do. And we'll talk about Google Analytics and how to kind of tee up the next class. And hopefully answer anyone's questions who's not able to be here on December 7th or on Google Analytics. So, and we'll post all the videos on our website. So if anyone wants to go back and watch this class and download the presentation, or watch any of the previous classes or future classes, although we'd love to have you here, you're also available to do that. So why is Google AdWords important? What is it? It's really more around so in the last class we talked about Facebook, and we talked 95% about Facebook. We hit on Twitter and LinkedIn a little bit. And then we did mention Instagram, because you can deploy Instagram ads through Facebook. But while those platforms are more of the long play to a conversion and starting by building brand and focusing on brand, and then the conversions happening after that, Google AdWords is definitely more finding customers right away that have an intent to purchase at that moment, or are shopping for something, either a product or a service at that moment. So marketers can immediately get to the search engine results pages. That's basically the purpose. So when you think of what the first two areas that we're going to talk about, Google AdWords Express and Google AdWords, you're thinking of it around putting your ad out to where the user would see it after making a search on Google. And then the partner websites we'll get into a little bit later and kind of explain what that means related to some of these other aspects of the ad product. So the reason why it's still very relevant, actually, I'm going to go on the record today and say that Google AdWords is actually more of a traditional digital channel. So if you think about, many of you have probably done marketing in some aspect, way, shape, or form, even though you may not give yourself credit for it. You've done marketing probably for the last 8 to 10 years. If you have, you know that once upon a time, and still even a little bit today, you're buying outdoor ads, you're looking at, do we do TV, do we do radio? And while those channels still have a place, Google AdWords is actually more of, if you were to compare all of the digital products, that's more Google AdWords is on the traditional side, because it started back in 2006, 2007, when you could bid on a keyword for pennies and get to the top of Google. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's really more just that immediate, does someone have an immediate need to find something? Hey Jennifer, how are you? So the reason why it's still very, very relevant though as a layer of your marketing strategy is because it still does dominate the search market. So as it relates to people finding information on search engines, Google is still dominates the majority of the desktop searches. There are more searches around Bing and Yahoo. So Bing, Yahoo, are the same company now, and so they're all it's all kind of rolled into Bing, even though Yahoo still has its own website where you can search. The ad product is the same, and Google AdWords is the other side of that. So everything we're going to talk about today exists on the Bing Yahoo side of things. And then on the mobile side, you can see Google basically has all of the market as it relates to mobile. And the reason why this is because a lot of larger corporations will go with like a Windows setup in their IT infrastructure, and the default browser will be Bing. And so then on people's mobile devices, their choice is Google. As it relates to that mobile market, 90% of smartphone users have their location services turned on. Basically, whether or not you know what this means, it's kind of irrelevant. It's basically like pretty much a default option or something that people always turn on. I think you have to consciously turn it off. And so it's very relevant because you're getting all of the information based on your location services being turned on. So Google's sending you every search that you make on your mobile device. They're going to send you what's near you, what's around you at that time. And so that's also one reason why, if you ever speak to somebody, about where they're ranking on Google at the time, if they're looking at it on a desktop or a laptop and you're looking at it on your phone, it's going to be very different results. And so we've seen the data shows that there's a 146% increase year over year in searches where people are putting near me, even though they don't really need to on mobile. They're still that's kind of what's informing this shift by Google to make it more location based. 79% of people use their iPhone in the I want to go moments, and this is actually from a year ago. So we have every reason to believe that it's gone up from 79%. And then some more stats around what happens in the I want to go moments, how that affects after purchase decisions. So people taking a relevant action even again on their mobile device, and then searching, sharing that information with other people that are searching online. So real quick to kind of set the stage about what I was talking about earlier, try to think of Google AdWords as like this overall ad product that has all these different ways of placing ads on various places on the internet, and then break that down. So it's almost like there's two definitions of Google AdWords. There's the overall ad product, and then there's actually Google AdWords as the ability to place ads on the search engine results pages. So you guys are all probably pretty familiar with this, but I'll just kind of level set here. So paid ads go in the top 3 places above the organic results. And of course, depending on your search, you may also see information on a map here, and Google's constantly changing that. And then you also have ads down the side, spots 4 through 10 on page 1. So if we're ever talking about, later on we'll talk about the first position, and what we mean by that is this first position here. And then we'll talk about top of page, and so top of page is going to refer to one of the top 3 spots. And then page 1 would refer to any spots 1 through 3 or 4 through 10 over here. Also, you guys probably know that a lot of times you'll see a Google My Business listing here, which will drop these ads down even further, which makes it super important to show in these top 3 spots. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then another aspect of Google AdWords is Google Shopping. So we'll talk about that a little bit later too, but that's where if you're searching for any kind of product now, you're going to see images to just go ahead and shop. And so you can see buy Jordan sneakers, you've got Foot Locker, Nike, a bunch of other companies competing for that spot. 2 other aspects that we'll talk about a little bit today, I'll spend a little bit of time on at the end, within the AdWords product is you can essentially place ads, either text ads or banner image ads, pretty much anywhere on the web. and that's part of the display network. And the reason why is because publishers have code from Google where they'll run that code into open spots that they haven't sold on their website called remnant. So these are remnant impressions. And when you place an ad on the Google Display Network, which we'll talk about later, you can actually pick what domain names you want to show on. So like for this ad, for example, this is an advertiser like anyone in this room can go in to the Google AdWords ad product into the display network and place an ad on Forbes.com for like really cheap. Now, it's not always going to be the most effective advertising, but in terms of like brand building and getting in front of a potential audience, that's an option that's made available. And then of course YouTube is now huge because you can, as you guys all know from using YouTube, you see ads, there's certain ads that you can skip after 5 seconds, and then there's certain ads that you actually have to watch like the first 20 to 30 seconds of the ad, and that's based around the options within YouTube that allow you to select or pay more money to have users not be able to skip your ad. And then you can get a corresponding companion banner over here on the right-hand side. So these are all just ways. I think the reason why I want to separate these out and open up any kind of discussion around it throughout the class is because these would be more like the purpose of building your brand. Like these would fall into, like if you're a marketer trying to build brand recognition rather than that immediate purchase, these two would be more in line with that, whereas the search engine results is like someone needing something now, like I need urgent care, or I need a dentist that can like I chipped my tooth and I need like an immediate dental appointment or something like that. So search engine placements, I want to talk about Google AdWords Express first because I've been big on this just based on constantly being in these ad products all the time, placing ads for clients like all day, every day in Facebook Ads Manager, in the Google AdWords ad product. One thing that our team has noticed throughout the last couple years, like probably I would say year and a half, is that this product underneath AdWords called Express actually gives you the following benefits. It's about half the cost. 80 to 90% of your ads will show on the search engine results pages versus the display network. 80 to 90% of your ads will show on mobile devices, which that's kind of why I teed up the mobile part earlier, because that's where everybody is right now. And we're noticing that a couple different data points here that we have based on the access that we have to various ad accounts and Google Analytics accounts, is that this is where these two numbers are coming from our data, and then the 40% growth rate that we see year over year in all websites going to mobile, basically. The other thing with AdWords Express is because, I'll show you guys how to do this in a minute, 80 to 90% of your ads show on mobile devices. There's this option to do automated verified phone call tracking. So the reason why I wanted to lead off with this is because it's pretty much the easiest thing ever to set up and provides the most value back. There's some limitations to it though. You can't really tell Google anything about where you want to be shown at any particular time, or you can't accelerate your ad above a competitor's ad. It's really more of if you're in an industry where you see that some competitors might be spending 2-3 times the amount of money that you can afford to spend, you can actually get in that game with them at this super low cost, and you get your ad seen when Google wants to show it. So it's kind of Google's way of fitting you in the rotation with the big boys and girls, I guess. And it's just super effective as it relates to return on ad spend. So your presence is limited. You can't really accelerate over competitors, but it's really made for companies and organizations and small businesses that don't really want to anyway. What you can do, and this is we can get into, I'll get into kind of showing you guys some of this as well up here on the screen, but you can deploy ads quickly to any target geographic radius. So you can put in zip codes, towns, you can do a radius around your business address. And of course you can create multiple ads. So if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 80 locations, you can go ahead and run ads around each of those locations. It's really, really easy to go ahead and set an average budget per day, and you get an estimated amount of views and clicks per month. And it'll show you a nice little screenshot here of how your ad will appear on desktop and on mobile. So point here is that the user making the search has no idea that you're an AdWords Express customer. Basically, you're in there with the same advertisers that are advertising on the AdWords main product, and you're just not paying as much money. Because you're not paying as much money, you're not able to have that control over where and when your ad shows, but you'll get the same placement. And here's what I was talking about in terms of generating phone calls, and this has been super effective. So like in this case, this is screenshots from a client account. You can see over a period of months, there's 76 verified phone calls here, and for this one particular ad. And it'll show you the date and time of the call, the area code, and the duration of the call. So it's really nice to be able to line that up with actual leads and sales that happened, and be able to kind of reconcile that with your client or for your own marketing purposes, whether you're an agency or doing this on your own. So like it is most effective for phone call tracking. So if, like, I don't know, Sean, if that's something where you have a need to generate phone calls, for example, it will also do click-throughs to the website because you've got a web URL here in the ad. The good news is you're not paying that much money for it, and so you can, it could be a way to build your brand, get your brand out there. But if you're a service-based business, or even like a retail-based business that needs to get people in the door and or accept phone calls, it's a really, really good way to generate sales. So in terms of being able to build an ad together, in order to access this is why we asked you to have a Gmail account that you could use potentially to just kind of see some of this. I'm going to pull it up on the screen, and if you guys want to try to go to this link, you would log into your Gmail account and go to adwords.google.com/express, and then it should walk you through being able to sign up for AdWords Express here. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but
Any of us know if you need help back here?
what we do, we can come around and. So what we do here is, once we're logged in, once you've created your account, you're going to see kind of a dashboard like this where it's just super simple and straightforward to create new ad. How awesome is that? I think the last class with Facebook Ads Manager, this is probably the opposite of that. So what I did here was I kind of set up an ad in progress for Brian's company. So one of his companies, Double B Photography. So if we continue on the ad settings here, I kind of set up just kind of a dummy ad here for Brian.
So you need to have a website to set this up?
So what we do is we go to create new ad, and this was the screen here that I was showing you. So how many people want to actually try to do this right now versus just kind of listen and we can help later? We could do that. So I'll just kind of keep going. First thing you'll do is pick a goal for your ad. So this is where I was saying earlier, call your business. Works like a charm. Visit your storefront. So if you're a retail-based business, or you want maybe like a client is art showroom, art gallery, or like fashion client, you know, they want people in their showroom. And then of course, anyone can take action on your website and it'll be beneficial. But we're gonna go ahead and move forward with call your business. And again, just this URL right up here, something you guys could maybe book, you could also bookmark it for later. But if we pick this goal, here's where we're dropped into, and we can start to see, it basically just, since we're here, it dropped us, and I've got my location services enabled, it dropped us right in here into Franklin. And it's gonna start by showing us, okay, we can reach, just in this 15-mile radius around this location, we could reach close to 4 million people in this radius that would be potentially searching on Google. So if we go ahead and just continue, like Brian wants to generate a ton of business for his photography company, we can start to type in, I know Brian does, got his website up over here. So if we go into his website, we know he does corporate portraits. So this is where you're you're telling Google what kind of business you are. And then you can check as many of these boxes as you would like. So if Brian wants to try to generate some business for professional headshots, business photography, let's say, let's add healthcare photography. And let's do lifestyle photography. And we'll check these boxes too. So,
Just for clarification, is that your best guess at what you think people are searching for keywords?
yeah, so that's a good question. So this is where you're essentially putting in your keywords. This is where it's a major difference between AdWords Express and the AdWords Full product that I'll show you after we get through this. In the AdWords Full product, you can go in and type in any keyword that you can think of and we'll show you a more strategic way than doing that. But this is basically your only way to tell Google within the Express product what you think you want to show for related to what users would search for.
What, from a strategic standpoint, are you better off having a tight list or a broad list?
You're better off kind of starting with a just general, more broad list, and then kind of, I'll show you guys kind of how to pause. It'll start to show you data right away. So in day one, after you deploy your ads, it'll start to show you the keywords that your ad is showing for, and you can turn off the ones that you don't want to show for. So you can control in the Express product, you can control it a little bit. So that's why I would recommend starting more general and then kind of narrowing down. Because if you start really focused, you're going to limit the amount of impressions that your ad will show for. And it's hard to go back, and then you have to go back and create another ad. So,
I ran one of these this summer for a month. I got a $50 credit from something, this business registration or something at Google, and I went through all this process, and it was really simple. It was pay-per-click, so I only paid when someone actually clicked on the ad. For a month. It cost me less than $50. The AdWords product, the traditional one's a lot more expensive, and my experience was when I put in the more general terms, I was getting a huge number of views, but almost no clicks. And the clicks that I was getting were not on things that I did. It was like wedding photography and those search terms. And there's an app that you get for your phone where you can go through and turn off these search terms. And as the month went on, like after a week, I was like, oh, I figured out, I can change this, you know. So, but yeah, you're limited to Google's suggestions. And after a week, I went and turned a bunch of them off, and then it started getting more focused, and it was more about business photography and not weddings and graduation photos and things like this. This was at the end of May, so I think a lot of people were looking for graduation photographers. really got me more clicks and less views, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
And but I still didn't get any calls off of it, so I was kind of disappointed with that.
Okay.
But for the exposure, for $50, I was like, this is it's an absolute
Yeah.
bargain, And most of the time, I didn't see my ad when I would go look for it on Google. And when I did some searching, it told me that because I had searched for it before, Google maybe wasn't offering it back up to me because I didn't choose that as one of the results. But anyway, I don't know. That's
Yeah, you're
helpful, but that's
Totally. That's spot on with my experience as well in managing ads as well as talking to Google about it, because you don't want to see your ad. Really. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to see your ad, but you don't want to, because they are supposed to be showing it to people who are more likely to engage with it and become a customer. And it's good to know that they're doing that as well on the Express product, because I know that they do that on the full Adwords product consistently, because they obviously want people they want advertisers to spend their money there, and so that's a good move on their part. And yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that, because so there's two approaches. Like, you could create multiple ads and be very, very narrow with your keywords from the start, and if you want to try to generate business for corporate portraits, then go very narrow in that direction and have an ad for corporate portraits, or have an ad for multiple services and then just turn off the ones kind of immediately that Google is showing you for. That's really just kind of like a hack for the Express product, really, because in the full product you can just you can put whatever you need in there. So in terms of
Why does Google offer this?
your ad copy.
Is it for?
Yeah, that's so. Because there must be, like, I don't know for sure, but my hypothesis is that somewhere in Google's ecosystem of serving ads, there are some gaps in times and bids, and there's remnant impressions because of that. So in some way, the search engine is the same way as a regular website, where, like, if you're a website publisher and you're selling ads and you're selling it by impressions or by clicks, and you're not generating all of the you haven't sold out, you have remnants, you have leftover. Google, somewhere in their ecosystem, has to have leftover, and that's why the Express product exists, and that's why it's so cheap.
Oh, I got told different. I was told that for the average person who's trying to, like, do it for themselves and not use a marketing agency,
Yeah.
that, AdWords, the product we're used to, is just a beast, and it's so overwhelming, and they can't figure it out easily. So Express is a way for the average business owner who does not have the marketing expertise to go in and kind of get to play the game with the big boys.
That's right, yeah.
And it's just a much easier product for them to use. So if you're, an expert at it, you probably won't like it because you don't have as much control as you're used to. But if you're a beginner, you just need the basics, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I went macro with my hypothesis on why it exists.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right in terms of, like, how Google has positioned it into a product for people to actually use, because 100% it is like that's exactly what it's for.
We're calling it,
It's
like,
for people
AdWords.
who are, but they've done a very good job of actually making it really valuable for everyone in that position. So
Yeah, and you're limited to a 40-mile radius too, from whatever
Yeah.
the location is.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
And that's where you can go and create. That's right. That's where you can go and create as many ads as you want
Right.
to kind of get around that. But if you are really limited to a service area, like we have a client in Minnesota that's just trying to promote one of their locations in Minnesota, and it's in a kind of remote area. There's not that many people there around this particular retail store, and so we have to be very I want to place all these ads around it to try to generate phone calls for this location, but they want to stay very close, very tight within that radius. So it's like this balance of how many people will actually see your ad. So you gotta again, that's kind of another hack. It's like you can only do the 40 mile, but then you can get around that by doing as many ads as you want.
Right.
Whereas in the big product, you can just put as many locations in there as you want for one ad that might be working really well. So, but it's the same. So it's the same character limit. It's going to look the exact same as an ad, with some exceptions. We'll kind of get into later.
Can you?
I'm going to jump. Yes.
Can you do this on YouTube too? Or is it
Yeah.
this? Okay.
Yes, totally. So I'm going to get kind of back flying through the presentation here so that we can get to some of that. So it sounds like you guys are pretty familiar with a lot of this, where you'll see your views, your clicks, your amount spent. Here's where we're just talking about this, where if you click Manage All, that's where you can toggle through and pause your keywords. So now we'll pivot over into AdWords, the full product. So this is where you get full control over bidding, where you can bid on the first position that we talked about, the top of page 1 and those top 3 spots, and page 1 in general. Full control over keyword match types, which we'll go over, kind of break that down. Greater ability to expand. So this is what I was saying earlier, that you can see where an AdWords ad will end up being different because you can add extensions to an AdWords ad. So you can put additional information in your ad to basically give yourself more real estate on the search engine results page. And we'll talk about those extensions. You can do, you can organize and streamline your campaigns a little bit better. So a good example of that would be, like if you have multiple ads in the Express product, they might be kind of like bidding against each other. That could be a good thing because you could have more of a presence on the search engine at one time, thus increasing the likelihood of somebody clicking through to your business. But in the AdWords big product, you can structure your campaign so that you're not bidding against yourself and driving up the cost per click.
Can you go back really quick, just to make sure that we're understanding, like from AdWords Express?
Yeah.
A couple of things. I think one thing that's important is that if you set your budget, and the lowest you can go is $50. If you set it, it's going to be a recurring payment. So be careful. You have to stop it, or it's just going to keep going. So maybe setting an alert on your phone or something before it's month 4, and you're like, whoops, and you've spent $400. So that's one thing. The other is when the call generation through the leads there, of course we're going to see numbers on our phone and we don't answer it thinking that it's, who knows what, DirecTV. So you're going to hear like the ringback tone coming through, and it's going to say like, you have a call, this is a lead call from Google. So that way to answer the call. Just a couple of things before we leave at Express, I think.
Yeah.
Is there
Those are
anything
good differences, yeah.
Sorry, is there anything special with the phone number? Is there anything you have to do? Is it just putting in your phone number that you use?
It does have to match. It does have to match a phone number that's on your website because Google will look. They'll match the URL against the phone number. But it'll basically do a vanity number. So, meaning, not in all cases will it actually show the phone number that you put in because it'll be Google's version of the tracking number. Mm-hmm. And so when the user taps your ad on their mobile device to call it, it might not be your actual phone number that you put into the ad. It'll just route to it. And then to Kate's point, when you answer it, it'll say you have an incoming call from Google AdWords.
You see,
Yeah.
that's kind of also something to know. Whatever number you've got there, make sure it's one that you answer, and you're not thinking like, oh, it's a cable provider, and I don't want to pick it up because you could be missing that lead, and then your voicemail is kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. And then, what was what was the first?
Oh, just your budget.
The budget. Yeah, that's actually a really good. So tactically, you can, in the AdWords main product, you can set a beginning and end date to your campaigns. In the Express product, you turn it on and it just keeps going. So you do have to set a calendar.
But you're not married to it. If you only do half a month, you're only going to be charged that per day, that per day allowance. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, if you want to run something really, really heavy, and at a higher number for 10 days just to see kind of what the analytics look like, you can do that and then back down. So you can just sort of toggle back and forth just to see kind of what happens.
And you can turn it on and off too. In that app, there's like a little slider. you don't want to run it today, you just turn it off. You get a bunch of calls and you're like, happy.
So for I'm glad you're mentioning the app because like
I know, like, right.
The app is
the app for AdWords Express would be the way to go because you don't have all those options. Like it would be super easy to just look how am I doing, turn it on or off. You could create a new ad in there.
I was in it every day, just looking at it. Oh God, did anybody
Yeah.
And I like to toggle through at the top, there's like a little bar. Toggle through that because it's got some really good tips, like on what other people's look like and how the wording runs, because it's like you have 12 characters, it's like a tweet, you're trying to get your whole life in, in 30 characters, so toggle through their ideas because they're really clever.
This is what Kate's talking about.
Yeah.
So it is hard actually to write an ad. I mean, because you have barely any characters, so you have to be pretty selective. And that's why you'll probably end up running more than one ad.
So if I can make a comparison, it seems like the Express version is kind of like when you're boosting on Facebook.
Yeah.
Whereas the full one is more like when you're actually running the campaign through the business manager.
That's exactly, yeah.
Okay.
See, when you go through the whole...
Give him his certificate, get him out of here.
A, you might be teaching a future class. B, it's a perfect example of why everybody needs to go to every class.
I
Because
think
you
you
put it all
gotta
together.
Check snakes. All the check snakes.
Yeah. So, then the last thing on... There are many other differences between the two products, but my personal favorite is that with the Google AdWords main product, you can link both of them to Google Analytics, and I'll show you guys like the beginning of that today. But when you don't link AdWords traditional campaigns to Google Analytics, you miss out on the ability to optimize your ads for conversions, and so that would be basically limiting you to kind of just optimizing them for clicks, which is essentially where, not that you're not going to pay more money, but your ads are probably going to run out faster. And the difference between optimizing for conversions and for clicks is that Google will take the data from your website, which it gets from analytics, and it'll then use it to inform your future ads on AdWords, whether or not the person searching the profile of the person searching is in line with someone who would convert on your website. So that's where the AdWords main product is far more sophisticated, because it'll tap into that algorithm using the user's profile who's searching and whether or not they believe that your ad should be shown for that ad. And that's one of the main factors for setting yourself up for success in running like a long-term strategic. Like Sean is absolutely right, because now I'm thinking it's like the way we talked about Ads Manager, we talked about it being like a 6 to 9 month campaign versus a boosted post being like a week or a month max, right? And so within the AdWords main product, you're looking at how can you continuously make tweaks to optimize for conversions, which is more in line with like the Facebook Ads Manager concept. So you can also run tests. There's some cons to AdWords. It is getting overpriced, and that's what I was talking about. The reason why I called it traditional digital actually is because it's not that it's not an important layer of a marketing strategy, because the user's attention is still there for sure, but it's just costs too much. And so there's a larger budget required to even kind of get any traction in AdWords traditional. And actually, I'm thinking, Sherry, like this is like pretty in line with what I was talking with you and Sydney about, for some of the stuff we were talking about recently. Because you're gonna need like probably at least $1,000 a month to get anything in, and that's pretty like minimum level of Google AdWords. I mean, there's companies out there there's small to mid-sized businesses spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month on AdWords because it's working, but it's just more expensive. So, it does plateau quickly. So you'll have a month that's you'll have like a 2 or 3 month period where you're optimizing and your conversions are rising. Your return on ad spend is greater, and then it'll plateau off pretty quickly. You'll have to bid more to get back up. It's like playing the stock market. So we'll kind of go through some of the main points around creating structure and strategy to this, generally you're going to want to start with like maximum around 20 to 30 keywords that are closely related. And the way that we want to, so now we'll kind of break out like another tool here. The Google AdWords Keyword Planner is generally how we want to do this at a basic level. So I used actually Rachel's company as an example here. So you can correct me if I'm a little bit off with some of this stuff, but like if we were to have a discussion around like, hey, how would we get started on an AdWords campaign? We'd probably pretty quickly get to, okay, let's see, without even talking to you, like let's say you left us a voicemail or shot me an email or something. We'd probably go to your website and see some of your services, which I have listed, your website says are your services that you have listed over here on the right-hand side. And then we'd run them through this AdWords Planner tool, and it would give us the latest search volume and competition and suggested bid for each of the terms. And that's generally our formula to say, okay, now we're using the data to put together a starting point for where we would want to, where our keyword focus would want to be. And that's how we would get to the 20 or 30. It might not need to be that many, but it really shouldn't start with too many more than that, because you're going to have so many different variations of the same keyword, and it'll start to get a little bit out of control at the beginning if you go a little bit high. Like you can always add more later based on performance. So the way to go to the Keyword Planner tool, and I know not all of you are in an AdWords account right now, but I'm going to show you how to get into the tool itself. It's going to be when you're in. So right now I'm in an AdWords account because the main tab up here is, you're going to always see, okay, to Brittany's point earlier, they've changed the user interface of AdWords. So literally, like I'm in probably, and I don't know, Casey, how many you're in on a daily basis, but I feel like I'm in at least 5 different Gmail accounts, each probably having 5 to 15 actual AdWords accounts under them. So because of that, like I'm always seeing the different interfaces. So you might see some different stuff, but this is the old interface. And under Tools, if you go up under Tools and Keyword Planner. So if you were to Google the Google AdWords Keyword Planner tool, you could get there too. It would make you create an AdWords account, which is just typing in a Gmail, creating a Gmail account. It's as easy as doing that. And then you go to Tools, Keyword Planner, and if you type in, so what I did for Rachel's company here, this is your website, right?
Yeah, it's our very simple website. We rebranded about 6 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the
Actually,
process
about
of,
6 months
you're going to
ago.
launch a new one?
June. We
Okay.
rebranded in June.
Do you need a new website?
No, we're building this one out.
Okay,
no
you're building
content.
it in-house?
There's no content, yes, we're
Okay.
building it in-house. There's no content on it right now.
Cool. So you need content? No, I'm just
Do
kidding.
you need photography?
We can all meet later. So just based on your list of services, I just picked a few and I put them into the tool. So like if we were to do, I'm going to go back to my deck here. So I typed in ACO management, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got data around that phrase. So I'm going to do that again. And you click Get Ideas. And it's going to show you, okay, so whenever there's any search volume, that's actually a good sign. So you have to kind of take it in comparison. So it's saying 30 average monthly searches for ACO management. And then it's going to get into, so like population health management has 3,600. So I don't know enough about your business to know whether or not those are comparable services. But what I know is that if you came to me and said, hey, I've got $1,000 a month to spend on AdWords, what would you do? I would use this kind of data to say like, well, we might want to take a look at population health management potentially over ACO. So right now this one's got, so this one has a 7 out of 10 quality score because the website's pnhsource.com. Our ad has PNH, pnhsource.com, PNH. This page has PNH everywhere. It's optimized for it, and it's got a 7 out of 10 quality score. The ads weren't showing this morning due to when I took the screenshot due to our ad schedule. So if you're ever managing an AdWords campaign and you see your ad not showing, chances are it's because you have your schedule set and the time that you're looking at it isn't, you're not green lighted it. And so here's one, iron deficiency anemia for this same website is nowhere on this page. It's not in the URL. So I did a little search like iron here, and it's nowhere on the page, 0 out of 0. So it's got a 1 out of 10 quality score. So it's not rocket science. It's just effort around thinking through. It's basically like the oldest hack for Google, and it's still relevant. Now you have to marry the quality score together with the bid amount. But before we get to the bidding, the ad extensions are a big part of increasing quality score. So ad extensions are where you can go in. I'll show you guys how to go into Google AdWords and find this. But you basically can just add more copy to your ad. And that just really all that is adding more opportunity to put in a value proposition, a call to action, or a keyword that can increase your quality score, which will increase the odds that your ads are shown, which will increase the odds that your ads are clicked on and that you'll get conversions. So that's why ad extensions are pretty important. And it explains why they can look different. You'll see different ads looking different. So the different types of extensions will be relevant based on what type of business you are. So you have price extensions for anyone selling products with a price on them. So like for a lot of us in here, us, Brian, Sherry, it would be hard. Like we probably wouldn't, maybe for a client of ours we would, but for our services we wouldn't necessarily advertise like a price on it. But like for this example of business cards, we know like this is a product. So when you put the price extension on your ad, you're going to get data around how well an ad like this is performing versus an ad that doesn't have the price extension.
You said
And
you're
you're
going
going
to charge for that?
What's that?
And there's not a charge for that? Is that what
No, it's just there's no charge. You can go in and add these extensions to your ad, and so yeah. To your question, it's a common misstep when people are managing Google AdWords campaigns in the main product, because there's so many of these little trigger points that if you're new to the product or you haven't taken the time to educate yourself around it, you totally miss like low-hanging fruit like this. You can actually call Google and ask them any question, and they'll give you typically they'll give you like 30 minutes of their time, and this will be the stuff that they'll tell you. Like you gotta have ad extensions, and they'll walk you through what ad extensions would make sense for you. Typically, site link extensions, call extensions, call out extensions.
What's the difference between a call and a call out?
Call out is you can put any text in it. A call is actually tracking a phone call. So when we walk through these, so call extension requires a business phone number. So you do need to have you do need to have a verified business phone number with Google to have a call extension. Same with the location extension. So this is where we get into a Google My Business profile. Has to be created with a verified phone number and a verified address on it, and then linked to, we're now in Google's ecosystem of all their different products have to be linked together with your AdWords account to then show either the call or the location extension. But those efforts will result in better performing ads. Same with review extensions, not the easiest one to get, but you can get a verified review partner to actually show real reviews in your ad that will help your click-through rate. Call out extensions, Emily, are where you can just go in and put things in, right?
On the review, how do you select the review?
You can actually type in a review.
How will they know that it's you didn't make it up?
It has to come from a third-party, either a Google review or a third-party review that's verified by Google. So Google has. Casey, do you want to elaborate on that one for me? On the verified review
So you
part.
have to tag the source
the website of where the quote came from, and Google will go through a review process to verify it before they.
But it can be a Yelp review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it says you can use a paraphrased or exact quote, so that's where Casey was talking about going through. The Google will go through a process and kind of keep you updated on that within the ad product. The call-out extension, you can just go and type in anything that is allowed under their AdWords policy. So those can be done like right away.
It's like on George Jones, could we do a call out for awesome smokehouse barbecue?
Yeah, we could put event space available or smokehouse barbecue. Yeah, like awesome might get flagged in their review policy, but yeah, totally. We can put stuff in there like that. Any kind of promotional message.
On the review policy, how long from submission to?
Pretty much right away. Like they've got it
Scary.
where it's like a bot that like immediately will say like, yeah. It's like the Facebook thing where you run a Facebook ad and it'll immediately get an email like you have too much text in your ad kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to me every day. Bidding and positioning is around, this is pretty critical because if you don't have a top of first page bid or a first position bid, you're probably rarely going to get any clicks or conversions in your ad, and this is where it gets really expensive because you can set a $50 a day budget, which is a pretty decent sized budget, but if a keyword, it's very possible that a keyword that you're after will cost like $25 per click to get you the first position. So that's 2 clicks. So the good news is that you're 40% more, our data is that you're 40% more likely to get a conversion when you're in that when you're in that first position. But it does make it harder on your budget.
First position on the page or just in the top portion?
First position would be literally number 1. And
So I'm getting conflicting data on that.
top of page is 1 through 3.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was just, because I was out, but I've
Yeah.
been seeing conflicting data on whether one converts better, and then I've seen other reports and statistics where like the 2 position
Yeah.
converts better because people sometimes think 1 is like, oh, they paid for that, and 2 might be more.
For us, it's
So
for
I
us.
always like to see the data because I keep getting conflicting.
For us, it's just it's based on what we've actually done. So it's when we allow an ad to move out of number 1, it starts to convert less, about 50 to 60% of the time, and then when we move it back up into number 1, it starts. So I mean, I'm sure you'll definitely see different stuff, and have but it would be different. I believe it would be totally different based on the client. So I'm basing that on like a handful of e-commerce clients. So this is how you view it. So you would go into I'm gonna kind of jump over into the product now. Okay. So when you're in the product, you can go into columns and you can modify your columns. And so then it will allow you to see, like over here, estimated first position, estimated first page, and estimated top of page. So you can see first position costs more than top of page, which costs more than first page, just being on the first page. That's always going to be the case. So we've added up, but if you're opening up AdWords and running it for the first time, you're not going to see this as your default view. So you're going to want to go in and modify your columns to be able to see the at least those options. Like those are the most critical things, because that'll if you're running a campaign and you're like, I don't even know why I'm not getting any impressions, I'm not getting any clicks. Chances are it would be, if your ads are running, it would be because you're not on the first page. So you'd get this notification below first page bid. Yeah, jump in with any other questions on this too. There's also device type bidding, which is pretty neat. So in this screenshot, it's kind of an example of where our team had done some a bid adjustment on mobile. So if you see things in analytics like our web traffic is converting at a higher rate off of mobile devices, for example, you can adjust your bid up to a certain percentage when a user comes in through mobile, and it'll just automate that for you. So this is called a bid adjustment based on the device. And in the ad product, I'll just kind of show you guys where to. Okay, this was my call. This was actually my ad extension screen. So I'm going to go back. So there's actually a tab that says ad extensions, and then you can add any of the extensions by clicking the ad extension, and you can put it into the particular campaign. So here's where we can make bid adjustments based on a couple different factors. So one I just showed you was the device type, and then you can also do the same thing based on demographics. So you can see that Google AdWords will give you the demographic data, and if you see that male versus female is converting at a different rate, you can also adjust bids based on that. So device type, geolocation bids, that's another big one. So you can do it in this particular mile radius around a location. Mentioned demographic targeting. Here's where I think Daniel was excited to maybe get into some YouTube stuff. So before we like the next part of the class is going to be to go through all the other things that we can do within the AdWords product, and we can kind of explore together. But before we move into that, does anyone want to do anything else in AdWords, either the two products, or need any help on your own device getting anything set up? Any questions?
How does a smaller retailer gain any edge in this? It's just so hard.
Like
Like a Stage West selling boots, where you're just competing against, or someone selling apparel competing against J. Crew.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I believe that the Express product is gonna be the way to go, because their budget's just gonna go. Their budget's gonna actually do something. Mm-hmm. The main product is where, to your point about the larger retailers and even like Amazon, I mean, they're spending so much money all over the place that really, in order to get any kind of return on ad spend, it's going to be the Express product for a smaller retailer or Facebook.
Yeah. Now, what about competitive targeting of can Boot Barn target Stages West keywords?
Yeah. So you can bid on competitor keywords. What you can't do is put competitor brand names in your ad. But you can bid on competitor keywords. And there are tools that we use where we could see what, I mean, you could do searches all day long and see are people bidding on your terms. But there's some tools that we use where we can see like all of what any website is bidding on. So we can kind of break down like exactly how their campaigns are structured, what they have in their ads and all that.
What tool is that?
It's called SpyFu. You used it? Are you a SpyFu fan? Yeah. All right, cool. So when we get into the other stuff that the AdWords as a total ad product can do is so we've talked about the search network. We haven't really we've talked a little bit about the display network, not really shopping or video yet. And so that would be where when we get to video, that's YouTube.
I do have another question. How are they integrating AI, like home? Is that a different cost if you want to be included as in a?
I haven't seen that yet, but that's a good next That'll be next for sure.
That'd
Like
a
that'll
good
be
thing to try to
coming
own,
soon.
maybe while you can.
I think like right now it goes along with the voice search. So you can like with Google Home. I got my parents one for Christmas last year, and we were playing around with it, and it does give you. So right now the way that product works is you sync it to your phone. You sync it to a phone, and it could be an iOS or an Android device. But then it basically it'll just read what's on that phone.
Right, so they're not, there's.
So they're gonna get there
Yeah.
pretty quickly, but okay. So display ads and remarketing can happen as a result of a Google AdWords campaign. You would go into this would be when this is the new user interface design of AdWords. So when you get into AdWords, which would just be adwords.google.com, and you've logged in with your Gmail account, you could go into the display network and start to set up a campaign for this. And you're gonna they've changed it to where it'll start to look a little bit more user friendly. So you could determine what's the best objective for your campaign. So if we do something like website traffic, so we're gonna go with clicks, we would follow the prompts here, but you can see things like you can actually run a campaign, a contextual campaign, or a display campaign on Gmail. So if you're just a regular personal Gmail user and you're having a conversation about a topic with your friends, you'll start to see ads about that conversation that you're having. And so if you're an advertiser, you can run a Gmail campaign to start to show, like Brian could show ads to people that are talking about needing particular service
In their email?
in their email.
Oh, no.
So you can go in and as we go through the steps here, you can start to see where you'll start to see where you can get into selecting what website you want to be on, or if you want to bid on keywords. So because we've talked a lot about bidding on keywords, I'm going to talk about ways to advertise within the display network around interest, and this will kind of feel a lot like the Facebook session, where you can start to pick different in-market audiences, which would be broken down by business types or service types. You can pick by demographic, and you can actually pick by website. So, for example, like we have a client that's like a machinery company, and so we could go onto like forums and say like heavyequipmentforums.com as an example. This is an example of this was actually Girls to the Moon, that like friends of ours run that company, and so they're focused around helping like middle school aged girls kind of gain confidence, and they have events in the community and stuff. So this is an example around different websites that might make sense to show to moms about and parents of girls that age. So the display network basically feels and functions a lot like Facebook. But it's not as effective because, again, the biggest difference as a marketer between Facebook and the Google Display Network, the ad products are the same, but it's about where's the user's attention. And the user's attention really isn't on, like if you think about when are you on a desktop and when are you paying attention to a banner ad on a desktop? So it's more about, as a marketer, you really want to be more on the phone, and you're not going to be on a banner ad on the phone, but you're going to want to be where the user is on their phone, which is on social media, like the majority of the time. What you can do also through the Google Display Network, there was an option up there, the far option on the right, was to be in apps. So if you're ever in like any free app you're ever in, you'll see that there's always ads in it, and so that's where you can put a banner ad into an app through this ad product. So you start to see where it's a really powerful product. Google Shopping ads, I talked about at the beginning. So this is where e-commerce, like if you're in the e-commerce business at all, you really got to be doing something in the Google Merchant Center. So if you go to merchant, I think it's merchant.google.com or merchants.google.com. You'll get this Merchant Center. You can sign up in your website, whether you're Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, whatever. There's the ability in each of your whatever kind of website you have to set up a Google Shopping feed relatively easily. And a web programmer can automate the feed, or you can manually download the feed into like a CSV file and upload it into the Merchant Center. So while today's class, there could be another class just solely for e-commerce businesses around the Google Merchant Center and Google Shopping ads. I did want to touch on the fact that you can do Google Shopping ads. The main difference is you're not going to have any of the stuff that I showed you with managing the Google Shopping ads related to keywords, but it does have its own version of quality score in the product description. So if you have an e-commerce, if you're affiliated with a website that sells products directly online, if you're naming your product, pay attention to what you're naming your product and pay attention to your product description and go up to 800 characters on your product description. So the Google Merchant Center will read, the Google Shopping ads will read up to 800 characters on a product description. So that's going to be your version of the quality score that's going to help. Step number one is getting your product feed set up so that when a user makes a search on Google, you can see you can show in the organic results, but then you can also run ads against them. So that's what the Google AdWords shopping ads are, either through Magento, WooCommerce, or Shopify. And there's been okay, are you in Shopify?
No,
Okay.
no, but I've heard great things about
Okay.
how easy it is to do that on Shopify.
Yeah, so on Shopify, on all of those platforms, they each have a plugin for it that takes care of all of that for you. It creates the feed. It allows you to link the feed directly to the Merchant Center. So that would probably be like my real recommendation would probably be if you're in a position where you could at all pivot to like a Shopify, then that would be better for the long term because then you can automate the feed. But we can I'm sure we can figure out what it is about your feed that's not letting it be approved.
Right.
And then within the 800 characters, I would really focus on I'd focus around the content, like the value proposition of why your product's unique. But I would do it in a way where it would include likely search phrases that would be relevant to your target audience. So I'd focus it around the problem that you're solving, because you're solving you have a dual purpose product that's pretty cool that a lot of people are interested in. And so I would try to tell that story more than I would pack it full of keywords, but I would make sure that at least one of your top search queries is in your product description somewhere.
What's it feeding from Shopify?
It's feeding in the product name, the product description, the image, and the price. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
And it's taking it right out of the e-commerce platform and straight into the Google Merchant Center. And then it's basically, once it's in the Merchant Center, it's eligible, like Jennifer's screen, she's into her Merchant Center account and she's seeing and it's pretty common where you have some products are approved and some are disapproved. And the ones that are approved are eligible to show. If you searched for teething necklaces, or in your product description, you might have a different search query that would trigger it to show, or a title. Then a photo of her product with the price and the description could show just organically on the results page. along with a couple other teething necklaces.
So they don't charge for that?
Not for that. Then you can go into Google AdWords and you can run ads for that image and description and price and it clicks through directly to your products page on your website. So it's the user intent to purchase something right away or get into the funnel of eventually making the purchase. And the marketing play now that Google wants you to make is like by this having it as an ad product is, okay, now we're going to they've given it this real estate that's like at the top of the search engine results page that's clearly the easiest thing, like everyone's eye is going to that. And so that's why it's become, for any kind of e-commerce business, it's like you have to be doing the Google Merchant Center and the shopping ads at some level. If you're, if you're able to run AdWords campaigns, that's where I would recommend putting your money. Oops. All right, so our remaining slides are, just do like a quick little housekeeping thing here because we have 26 minutes left. Looks like we can get into some YouTube. We're pretty much done with the presentation. I'm going to wrap up the presentation at the end, but YouTube ads. So if we're in our ad product, we were in the middle of creating a display campaign, and we're going to kind of back out of that. We're going to create a new campaign. So, sorry, I'll back up. So you're going to kind of see something like this when you're logged into AdWords. It'll be your campaign view. And in the new user interface, you'll go plus button to add a campaign, and then if you do video, now this is where you can. First of all, you need to have video content. So our assumption is that you have video content and you can create your campaign type. So we're going to do standard to drive views, awareness, and conversions because most of us aren't e-commerce businesses and it would still be applicable to an e-commerce business, although you can also do a shopping campaign there within YouTube. And again, sorry, a shopping campaign, all that is it's just, to Brian's question, it's just an image of the product with the price, part of the description, and the name of the product showing on the results page of Google after a user searches for something. And then in this case, YouTube. So if we continue on, we're kind of bear with me as I put in some information here. So we're going to promote Data Driven Academy with an awesome video that we have. We'll do like $20 a day. I'm going to keep a standard. These are going to be options actually that you'll see within the regular search network that we talked about earlier. I'm going to keep standard. Accelerated just basically it spends your budget a lot faster. So if you ever have the accelerate, if you're ever running an AdWords campaign and you're like, why are my ads on from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. but they're not, like all of my money is gone by like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. It's probably because you have the accelerated method turned on. So I always, unless there's a business reason to, I always choose standard. You can select what kind of network you want to be on. So there's if you think about using YouTube, this is where this starts to make sense. So there's YouTube search results where your ads can appear next to search results on YouTube. And then there's the video ads where there's the skip button here with the little, you have some text over the video that you're placing. And bidding strategy, maximum cost per view, maximum cost per impression. So you can do view, this is like your equivalent of clicks or impressions. So you can select, we'll just select cost per view. We'll do Academy. So with my $20 budget, I might want to do like a $2 cost per view. I'll do $1 to pay for a view. So you can adjust. So the same way in AdWords, you can adjust a bid based on a device or a geolocation. You can adjust the bid based on if the video is like trending or popular, which is kind of neat. We won't do that right now, but it's an option. And then of course you can do some demographic targeting. So this is parental status, household income. So pretty advanced product here with YouTube. You can do interest groups. So this is all going to be based off of all of Google's data applies from all of their products. So you'll see it in the display network, you'll see it in YouTube ads, you'll see it in Google Analytics, and they get it from all web users' social media profiles basically, and all of the cookies that come along with that user's profile into the websites that they view. It goes into the website's Google Analytics account. So if we were to ever look at any of your Google Analytics accounts or any of your clients' Google Analytics accounts, we can enable the demographics and interest reports. Preview for the next Data Driven Academy on December 7th. Demographics and interest reports can show you who's on your website and which one of these groups they're in. So then that way you can take that data and apply it to future marketing campaigns. So for example, like if we go into, like how do I pick these, right? Like if I'm Brian and I'm like, well, I could do photography really, I'll just click play along. Like I could do photography really for any of these, even though I might not want to or it might not be my strong suit. I could, but like which one do I pick? So you could take data from your Google Analytics account and you could see really where like sports and fitness people are actually converting at a higher rate. And so because of that, I just want to go sports and fitness people. And you could run YouTube ads against that. You can also do keyword targeting. It's got the idea planner right in it. So if we wanted to do like high school basketball games, topics, and then these pull-down menus actually show you even more subtopics. So like maybe it's nutrition. Now here's where you create your video ad. And then, sorry, I'm kind of going fast. Placements are where you can decide, are there particular YouTube channels that you want to advertise on? So is everyone familiar with like just basically what a YouTube channel is? And so anyone can create a YouTube channel. There's obviously YouTubers that are out that have millions of followers, millions of subscribers that have made livings on having these popular channels. So if you want, you can basically start to advertise on their channel. That's part of how they monetize their business, is through being able to get a little bit of the part of the money from Google that Google collects from advertisers through the product. So if we wanted to do, or you can do particular videos. In this case, like we could do sports trick shots. Placements by URLs, I don't know. I'm gonna put Dude Perfect, but I think I gotta put in like their actual channels. Actually, I did placement URLs. I'll just put ESPN. Okay, ESPN.com. Now here's where you create your video ad. So you're gonna first upload your video to YouTube, and then paste your YouTube video URL in there, and then that's how you're gonna basically place your ad. Let's see if we can find one. The next thing.
I mean, the ad goes on your specific video?
So that means, no, it means your video goes on someone else's video. It pre-rolls before their video.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yep. So, like, let's see. So if I wanted to run an ad, okay, so this is me rapping at Red Letter Day. So I could run an ad of, I've actually thought about, I might do this. You guys might see on YouTube where I'm running ads of myself rapping. And I could do it, you can do it in a in-stream ad, which means that this is gonna be the well, people refer to it as pre-roll. It's an in-stream ad where you can skip it. There's also a video discovery ad, which is going to be basically like if a user makes, so actually what I may do is I like to try to do a lot of like digital marketing tips, like videos with digital marketing tips in them. So I could run an ad of me talking about, or any of our team talking about like a digital marketing tip, the data-driven daily tip. If any of you are familiar, I know my team is. They all watch me on Instagram. How to run a YouTube ad, you know, and then I could have my video be number one if I spend enough money above the actual like the videos that are getting the most organic, the top organic results. And then here's where you put in like your headline and your description for what rolls over like this little tiny part of the video on the bottom left. And then there's actually like, you can click through the ad. So there's a destination URL. You can decide whether or not you want it to go to the YouTube channel page or to the videos page. So that is. Do you want me to keep going?
I'm loving this. Yeah.
Are you getting anything that you didn't already know?
No, this is great. Yeah.
Okay. Is anyone getting anything that they didn't already know? Okay. Cool.
So, what's the data behind this? Like, what's the ROI? What's the cost? How do you feel about the analytics?
What I've done is I've run a lot of ads for like a coffee franchise and the nonprofit that I tried to do the Google grant for, that we ended up having to pay for these.
So you love
and
that?
I love you'll get a lot of impressions for really cheap. And that's great because it's just building brand awareness. And my experience with getting like really into trying to drive subscriptions to a channel or clicks through to a website is actually pretty limited. So I don't know yet exactly how well these work other than just a really, really low cost way to build brand awareness off of a video that you might think is really strong. And so what I try to do to really answer your question is I would compare it to TV. And I would say this would be the way to go for sure. You guys will all think I'm biased, and that's cool. I get it. But really, like if you think of the cost of a TV ad and whether or not someone's actually paying attention to a TV ad versus the cost of this, which would be like pennies per impression, versus someone's paying attention to this, it's debatable on the attention part, but it's not really debatable on the cost part. So I think it's a big time value. YouTube is a huge value.
It also depends on your audience. Like with Generation Z, most of their content now, they don't really watch TV, they stream. So if you're trying to go after a younger, I just had to do a huge report for a client all on Generation Z.
Yeah.
And it's like YouTube and Snapchat and
Where did you pull your data?
streaming. I had one of my team members go in and do a lot of research, so she pulled from a lot of different sources. Some of it we actually did with audience insights through Facebook and then multiple things. But
Sweet. That's awesome.
like YouTube is where they're consuming most of their data.
Do the impressions affect view count, or does Google like separate the two? Like if you get like 1,000 ad plays, does that bump your view count by 1,000, or is that like separate?
It's a separate metric. Yeah. So you'll get the metrics you'll get will be actually hold on. Okay, I can pull them up. Here we go. Here's the video campaign. So you'll get impressions, views, cost per view. You can see 6 cents per view. And then the view rate is 17.96%. So if we try to get some, like the definition of a view also is kind of what you made me think of, and so I don't know off the top of my head what the definition of a view is. I want to say, well, I know with Facebook it's like it's like I think 3 seconds. Is that right? Yeah. So I don't know exactly what. Let's see.
Oh, I used to know. I got tested on
Um, hmm. Doesn't cost per view is the average amount you pay when a viewer watches 30 seconds of your video, or the duration if it's shorter than 30 seconds. So a view, it says a view is the number of times people watched or engaged with your video ad. YouTube view count only if a video, true view video ads views will also count towards your video's public YouTube view count only if a video is longer than 11 seconds. So that doesn't really answer. It doesn't really answer the question. This is on the Google site for the Adwords answer for that, and that's why like they'll usually when they want to truly define that they'll put a little information thing there and they'll tell you what it actually is.
Do you do research like a mail survey or something for clients where you go and follow up on whether there was increased awareness after running something like this?
Yeah, we do it just informal over the phone, where we call them and ask. Particularly for where my confidence comes from the AdWords Express product was around calling all of the clients and saying, did these phone calls actually do anything for you? And I was pretty skeptical at first, and the feedback I got was like anywhere between like 30% and 80%. I mean, it's not going to be 80% for everyone, but I did get feedback. It was like 30% to 80% of the calls were actually legitimate leads from the AdWords Express product. That's probably the one that I've done the most follow-up on, because I have, like, as my experience goes, it's 90% AdWords or 90% AdWords main product and AdWords Express mixed, and then like 10% display network YouTube. There hasn't been a lot of. I think what it is there's not a lot of people with really good video content. There's not a lot of companies that feel right now like they have a lot of really good video content, and there's not a lot of ability either in-house or with an agency partner to really push that value of like, hey, let's create a video for a social ad or a YouTube ad. But the value is there, and I think there are some people that are way early. There's like a sliver of the market that's like way early on it, and they're winning at a huge rate. And everyone else, I think, is like just not even close to being there yet. But the YouTube discussion, I'm glad we're having it, because it's probably the most valuable discussion. It's the most relevant to where things are going. And the Google AdWords discussion is like definitely where things are right now. Like everyone's in Google AdWords right now, because that's still how people are searching and getting their information. But to Brittany's point, like within the next 12 to 15 years, it will all the content will be consumed on YouTube. It'll be watched on Facebook, Facebook Watch, the Watch tab. Facebook and Snapchat will be the OTT platforms like Netflix and Hulu are right now. And so to be into the game of the YouTube ads is going to be the way to figure out what's working and what's not working, to then get on Snapchat and get on, like, because right now it sounds silly to be running a Snapchat ad, but really, like, it's the demographics of Snapchat are getting older and older, and the cost for the attention is really low. So what do you guys think about that are in, like, the three of you guys up here that have you guys had any
Well, what you said earlier really like resonated about like not many companies like being willing to invest in video yet. I guess because it's just harder to produce, obviously, than like blog content. It just takes a lot more
Yeah.
effort. But it's like, I think I actually do what you do and like compare it to television all the time, and I'm like, man, it's just so cheap, and like the
Yeah.
audiences are engaged, and
Yeah.
like
And
out of all the platforms, it's the one I geek out about the most for sure.
We're doing it right now. We have a lung cancer awareness organization in New York that's running a campaign, a video campaign. And we're going to be launching it on Friday, so it'll be interesting to see. We're going to be launching it across all social channels to see what plays the best. We have like video content, and then we also have photos, and then we have graphics, and so it'll be interesting. It'll be the first time that we can see, like, from one campaign, different types of content, how those different types of content perform across other channels.
So when you say all social channels, like Instagram, Snapchat.
Instagram, not Snapchat, but Instagram, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
Cool.
We're doing.
How will you test that beyond impressions and clicks? I guess that's kind of what I was asking him. In this case, where it's awareness really that you're building.
Awareness.
Yeah, and you're not. But how do you measure awareness? How do you contact those customers and see if they're more aware than they were a month ago?
Oh, like on the B2C side.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess the way I'm interested to other people's answers, but like right or wrong, my mindset right now is around like, how do you do it for anything else, right? Like.
Well, that's when you started
and
comparing
so-
to TV. That's kind of what made me
Yeah.
think of
So right now you get this, and to me that's far greater and more accurate than what you would get for TV if you're comparing it to TV. But I know where you're going. I think the other thing that you can do, Brian, is this gets tied into your Google Analytics account. So it's not about needing to go. Sorry, I think I misinterpreted your question. As an agency placing ads for clients, I did research around the validity of the leads that we were generating by calling the clients. But in terms of like B2C market research, I haven't done any of that. And I don't know. I think where my mind's at is I don't need to do that because I can see everything in Google Analytics about what the consumer is doing. So if the consumer goes through to the website or through to the YouTube page or wherever the destination or call to action from the ad is sending the user, we can see all that data. So we can see out of the impressions and the views, how many people, like how many, whatever the metric is, it'd be something like sessions or page likes or subscribes. Whatever there's going to be an objective on the other side. So if your objective is to get somebody to subscribe or to view something or to opt in, we're gonna have all that data, and that's how we're gonna measure it. So the market research survey would be interesting around the psychology of why they did or why they didn't. But just in terms of the metrics, like we have all that data.
It'll cost you more to research than.
Well, yeah, that's why I was kind of asking.
That's a good
the
point.
question. Yeah.
Take that money and do a really good video, right?
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say about the video that the conversation with Daniel made me think of is around like if you ever are on Snapchat, ever, it's not any professional quality video at all. And so if you're a business trying to connect or a brand trying to connect to anyone on Snapchat, you don't want professional quality video at all. And I think right now that if you look at like a Dollar Shave Club type video or something like that, it's professionally done. But for something like Snapchat, or even like, I don't know, like Ty Lopez on YouTube or whatever, he's someone who it's just him with his iPhone and he's running ads on YouTube. And so, because all of these platforms are now, it's just acceptable amateur quality. That's what Snapchat is. So, it doesn't mean that there's not a place to be creative or to be thoughtful or like to take the same creative energy and strategy that you would have put behind a professional video shoot. You still want to put it behind your thing, but you don't need the investment in professional quality video to do a Snapchat ad. You could have it. It'd probably look. I would want to test one against the other and see.
If I had to bet all the professional, when I'm looking at Snap Stories and I get to a professional one, I know it's an ad and I don't want to see it.
And you've got to kind of think of it like Vine too, right? Like in the
Right.
first 3 seconds, it has to do.
Yeah. that's
Do
the
something
tricky
for you.
Snapchat. It's like,
Because I'm done with it.
And you're going through the story and like.
My thing is that.
I wanna-
Because everybody, like, if they're like, yeah, we got video, I'm like, great, give it to me. And it's, you know, in the standard, which, you know, standard landscape. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's not gonna work. Can't cut that the right way. And then when you tell them do something lower quality, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, that stigma of, we've got to look professional. It's like, no, we're not, no, this isn't the medium for that. Just,
You just made me think of a conversation I had with Chris the other day. The vertical. You want to elaborate on that at all? What you were telling me?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you know, people are used to filming things this way, but the trend now is to turn it on its side and have as many vertical assets as you would landscape, because most people are holding their phone that way. And I was telling Paul with iPhone 10, Galaxy S8, everything's getting taller and skinnier instead of wider.
yeah.
So your screens are less likely to be turned on their side, more likely to just be held vertically. And so if your video is already in that orientation, there's one less step to reach in that person.
That's what we've been doing is if we're creating the video, which, you know, it's not anything great production, it's just really quick, small digestible videos, then we go ahead and create it in all of the formats. So we have a square, and we have a rectangle, and we have a vertical, and we have, you know, or landscape, however you want to call it. But when you've got clients that are like, I have this video and I spent this money and I did this great thing and I really want to use it, and it's like, I can't do that because now it's cutting in weird places and, you know, it's too long for Instagram. It's just trying to get everybody to switch their mind and realize now you've got different formats. Snapchat wants 10 seconds, Instagram wants under a minute. Facebook will let you roll a little bit longer, but, you know, then you gotta figure out how much time is someone gonna view to get their attention and keep going. And then YouTube's got its own set of, you know, so it's just, people aren't thinking about all the different ways they have to create their information.
Yeah.
I read something, this has been a few years ago, but it was talking about video and framing everything in square. Because, you know, then it can be vertical or horizontal. But, and at the time they were using the example of that Beyonce video, the Single Ladies video, and the way that it was shot. It was more about shooting video content, and that the trend was to do center framing, which, you know, from an aesthetic point of view, you know, that is not as pleasant, you know, traditionally. But that center framing is more effective because of the phone. And I didn't know about the vertical trend toward that. It was really interesting. But the idea of doing things in a square, you know, because then you can crop off the sides or, you know, off the top and bottom.
Yeah.
We have that issue with photography. We send the photographer out and they're so worried about getting a really
Gotta
good
figure
shot.
it.
And it's like, I need extra space on the sides and the top and the bottoms because depending on what I'm using this photo for, I may have to crop it down. And if you get too tight, I can't crop.
That is a very long running concern.
So just a quick preview as we wrap up on what's coming next. We're going to do, in the next class, take all of the ads products that we talked about, and one of the things we'll talk about is how to link them into Google Analytics. So in the Google Analytics 101, it'll be how to properly set up Google Analytics so that you can get all the data flowing into that platform, and then that platform becomes like your source where you're going to see how well things are working in all of your advertising campaigns. And obviously if it's a Google product, it's going to be seamless to add right into Google Analytics, but there are tons of different Google Analytics integrations. And generally, as a free analytics product, it does a great job tracking any kind of referral source, meaning wherever your web traffic's coming from. Or if it's traffic to a mobile app, it can be Google Analytics SDK. The software development kit can be installed in a mobile app the same way that it can be in a website. So I'll walk everybody through channel views and drilling down into channels and what it all means. But generally related to today's conversation, it's around how to optimize your ads for conversions, which again would be the data. If you're going to think of like creating an AdWords campaign in the context of today, from day one, you need to run AdWords campaigns for a certain amount of time with it linked to your Google Analytics account to give Google enough data on what kind of user is converting on your site. And it sends the data from AdWords to Analytics, and then it sends it back to AdWords to show your ad to users who are more likely to convert. So I think we hit all of today's learning targets, especially the other cool things you can do with AdWords. So I'm glad Daniel kind of wanted to get into YouTube. And then recommended resources, plugging my Instagram and Snapchat, but also SpyFu that we talked about, and then the Google support that's my go-to. The AdWords Help Center has everything in there, and you can also call Google, which is actually probably better. So if I do that all the time. How do I call Google?
Yeah, I had to tell my husband the other day, and the way that I do it is through my Gmail account, but
you can do it through any of their products. Meaning, like you could go into AdWords, you could go into Gmail if you're a business apps, or you can just go to. I've literally Googled call Google.
The number,
Yeah,
there's a number that came up on here. It's 1-844-756-8495.
Yeah.
wait a second, say that again. Say that again.
1-844-756-8495. 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
Okay, let me get
Call
back to
Google.
Donna.
Well, I just happened to see it pop up, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. They'll talk to you about. So actually, I think that Google knows that it's traditional digital, and you'll see, like I've seen Google has reached out to me all the time. So it's easily accessible because they're trying to stay relevant in terms of making their ad, like selling their ad product. They're actively selling their ad product. They're no longer, Facebook, Instagram, and some of these social platforms are becoming the more sought after advertising platforms, to where now Google is saying we need to be more aggressive in selling our product, making it a lot harder to actually it's harder to get conversions on their product. They have this thing called the Accelerator Program. So the Accelerator Program requires you to they position it as your business is special, but really they're just targeting businesses like any other advertising salesperson would at a certain budget level. And because they're Google, they're going and but they're calling it an accelerator program. Really what it is you have to spend like $3,000 a day in AdWords to be part of their accelerator program, and then they give you more advice.
Yeah.
Basically on how to spend more money. Not that it won't help, it will help you convert, but it's going to be more advice on how to spend more money on Google AdWords.
I have a question about that. Do you, for your clients, do you run them all through your agency credit card, or do you have different accounts for every single client?
I always...
Like, how does Google know? Because we definitely hit that $3,000 a month of advertising, but it's through, like, various credit cards.
Oh, $3,000 a day for the
Yeah, a day.
You do that?
Yeah.
So, do you have a master client center? So we have a master client center account, which allows us to manage...
If you have a master account.
Master client center is just basically like, if everyone in the room creates their own Google AdWords account,
we have that.
then we would be able to have access through our master client center to your account. So then you put your credit, to answer your question, we have them put their credit card on file on their account, and then we just manage it through our master client center account. But if you're doing pass-through billing, which we've done that in the past too, where you're just passing through, you might be able to qualify for the accelerator program, which would help. It would help you out a lot, like because you get a dedicated team at Google of like 3 or 4 people that would give you advice on each of your campaigns. Because I mean, it's a good. I think I maybe came across negative on it. To me, there's nothing special to it. I think sometimes the perception is that it's so special. I think what's great about it is that if you're spending that much money on Google, it's like you might as well get the help from them to make sure that it's working for you. They want it to work for you, obviously, so that you can keep spending money there. So that's a good thing.
Usually they'll be more willing to partner with you if you do have the master accounts and they see you're running lots and lots of accounts for other people, because then you're an influencer and
Yeah.
you're gonna be making those decisions, so they're like sucking up to you.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see what's happening with them and the powers, because they used to have it cornered and it's like, give us your money, and now, you know, the social medias are kicking in because Google makes assumptions on their audience.
Yeah.
And the social media is getting told by their audience what they're doing, where they're shopping, you know, like they know for a fact these people are doing this, and Google's assuming based on search behavior, so it's funny watching it and how Google's trying to adapt and keep changing their interface every time you get in.
Yeah, that's right.
It's driving me
They
crazy.
have to set up for the next.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
running
we
the
gotta
schedule
wrap
for a
up,
specific
so.
time, so.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank
Do you
you.
want maybe?
We'll stick around out in the
Yeah.
Got some Google shopping. There's still some
Oh,
checks
yeah,
next.
okay.